3 wishes I'll grant you. Sure, 3 wishes are nothing at all. But ask for a fourth one, and you lose them all. Now, as I remember it, no small feat these days, Darby O'Gill was always trying to capture King Brian of the Leprechauns so he could get those 3 wishes. At least I think that's the way it went down when King Brian tricked Darby out of the death coach, but we'll get to that later. I didn't see this Walt Disney classic until I was in my 30s, and yet it played a major part in my early childhood. And that's because I had the full-length storybook album and I listened to it over and over again when I was a kid. I didn't see the movie in 1959 when it was first released, and I was 6 years old and the perfect age for it. But that storybook album weaved a spell of imagination that was both scary and funny, and it stayed with me forever. When I finally did get to see the movie, it was during an 80s reissue, and it was a strange experience. I took my daughter to see it with me at the old Fairfax Theater in LA, but by then she had seen Star Wars and Close Encounters and Superman and Star Trek, and I wondered how old Darby was going to stack up against that lot. And truth be told, I think she enjoyed it more for my sake than for hers. As for me, I enjoyed it well enough. I was impressed by the special effects. The Banshee looked great and was scary as hell. But what happened to Darby? Something was wrong with Darby. He sounded different. He wasn't the Darby I remembered. On the record, Darby is played by Arthur Shields. He and his more famous brother, Barry Fitzgerald, were 2 Irish character actors that Hollywood always called upon when they needed an Irishman. But in the movie, he's played by Albert Sharp, an actor whom I never heard of. But because of the album cover, he was the face of Darby. And yet, he sounded different, and it didn't match up in my memory. And so as the story goes, Darby and his daughter, Katie, live and work on a rich man's estate in Ireland. But Darby is getting on, and a younger man is now needed to take over his caretaking duties. Enter Sean Connery, the young man from Dublin. Darby begs Connery not to tell his daughter that he's being replaced. He wants to do it in his own time. Not wanting to cause a ruckus, and against his better judgment, Connery agrees. Now, Darby is kind of a famous character around the local village for always trying to catch a leprechaun so we can get those 3 wishes we were talking about. This leads to a battle of wills between Darby and King Brian, the big man in little people circles. One night, while chasing the rich man's horse, which is really a spirit disguised as a horse, Darby falls down a well and lands inside Knocknashiga, the mountain lair of King Brian and the little people. Turns out, King Brian has a way with horses and the spirit world. But inside the mountain, the place looks great. There is drink and gold aplenty, and Brian sits on a large throne, and he tells Darby that there's no going back. He's here to stay. But Darby is worried about his daughter Katie, so he gets the leprechauns all stirred up by grabbing a fiddle and playing a fox chase. Faster and faster they dance until the whole place is rocking, and then the mountain splits open and the tiny leprechauns jump on their tiny leprechaun horses and go riding off into the night. Now that's what I call a party. So Darby escapes, but King Brian isn't finished with him just yet. Meanwhile, a love story is brewing between Connery and Janet Munro, and she still doesn't know that he's been sent there to replace her father. I've always loved Janet Munro since first seeing her in The Crawling Eye, and then later in The Day the Earth Caught Fire, which is one of the better science fiction movies of the 60s. And as for Connery, well, the rest is history. So King Brian returns one night, and he and Darby knock back a few, singing songs and talking the talk. And Darby even gets 2 of his wishes granted. One of them involves King Brian appearing as a rabbit at a local pub, but I'm not going there. To further complicate matters, the town bully, played by Kieran Moore, keeps baiting Connery because he wants that caretaker's job. It's a tangled web indeed that soon breaks apart as Katie learns the truth about her boyfriend, and that famous Irish temper soon rears its head. She runs off chasing the rich man's horse, which has gotten loose yet again. She chases him to Knocknashiga, where things take a bad turn as she falls off one of the mountain's cliffs. She's soon discovered and returned home, but she's in a bad way, and it doesn't look like she's going to make it. And so a banshee soon appears over Darby's house, and it summons the death coach to transport Katie's soul to the afterlife. In an absolute panic, Darby calls on King Brian for help, begging him to grant his third and final wish so that he may take Katie's place in the death coach. King Brian grants Darby's wish and rides along with him to keep him company on his final journey. Now, as corny and as sentimental as that may sound, there's a certain poignancy in the fatalism of that moment. But King Brian tricks Darby into wishing for a fourth wish. And in doing so, Darby loses all his previous wishes, and he realizes that King Brian has saved his life. So it all ends well as Janet Munro makes a full recovery and gets back together with Connery, who first has to take care of business with the town bully. After the fight, Connery and Munro ride off singing My Pretty Irish Girl, a song I sang all the time when I was a kid, but for our collective humanity's sake, I'll refrain from doing so again. And the special effects are pretty terrific. The forced perspective sets wouldn't be bettered until Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the Banshee and the Death Coach are both scary and beautifully rendered. But as great as they may be, neither the film nor the special effects could match the power that the record album had on my imagination, which is the best special effect of all. See you around Knocknashiga.